Hey, everybody, welcome back to the Brian Boyer Show, getting things started here in 2013 and just in time for the holiday season. Think of this, Coach, as a Christmas present to the basketball world. The Brian Boyer Show. How about that?
Well, it's we're what are we 9 games into the season? We might as well get a show going, huh? Get this thing going.
Absolutely. It's been an interesting season so far. You've even played games out of the country. We're going to have some of those highlights. We're going to talk about that. But I would imagine all that experience that your team has been getting, you know that's going to come in handy down the road in those conference games.
Well, yeah, I don't think there's any question. I think we've gotten some wins along the way, and we've certainly played competition, really, really good competition, and so I think it's going to help us as we go along, and it's help us as we get ready for conference play.
Well, as they get ready for conference play, you need to get ready to come back and check out this first edition of the Brian Boyer Show for this year. It is coming up on your TV next. Don't go anywhere.
Hey, good luck on the big date.
Centennial Bank, conveniently open from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. Monday through Saturday and 1 to 4 p.m. Sunday at the mall at Turtle Creek, Arkansas's community bank.
Well, you know, it's funny, Coach, you talked about in the opening segment, you're a little bit into the season, actually 9 games. What have you seen so far maybe that you like and maybe some things that you think, okay, we got to work on that a little bit?
Well, I think the big as a whole, you kind of look at it. We've beaten the people we're supposed to beat, and really we've lost to really every team we've lost to is going to be probably a postseason basketball team. So, I think what I've seen is that we're a good team, but we're still not quite knocking off those postseason teams, which is where we want to be in the end. So, that's kind of as a whole where we're at now. I think we've shown signs offensively that we can really score. We felt like coming in this year, our guard play was going to be better than last year, and that has shown that to be the case. We can really score at times. Defensively, we've had spurts too, but I think certainly we've got to get more consistent in that area. And probably the area that I'm most concerned about still at this stage is, we're real hit and miss in rebounding. We've got to continue to get better at that.
You guys do have, and this is something you and I have talked about over the last couple of years, you have a lot of size. We were calling your team the Jonesboro Skyline because you got all those posts and all those young ladies with great height. How do you sort of continue to push all that height towards not just being able to score around the basket, but to be able to go and get those rebounds?
Well, I think it still is, and it should be a strength, and is a strength of this team, is not only the height, but the depth there, the fact that we can really go, 5 deep on our front line, and it's been good. Now, I still think as a team, we need more scoring there. I think we've gotten away from that a little bit and really trying to emphasize that more and more, but we have the ability to score inside. We have the ability to defend inside, rebounding. Again, we've shown times that we can really rebound because of the size. Now, again, we've had some struggles against the Arizona States of the world, the North Carolinas of the world, but
I think a lot of people struggle against those teams based on their records.
Yeah, but again, no, our interior game should, and I think will be our strength as we go through this year.
I think A-State fans have really enjoyed seeing Miss Andrea Gamble play. We're talking about scoring and rebounding in the paint, but that's a young lady who can really just take the ball in her hands and go create a basket just about any time she wants to. It's been a lot of fun to watch her.
Well, she has it, and just as you said, she has the ability to just go get a shot. And as I've said for years, people that have been around me, and especially in women's basketball, when you can find a player that can consistently shoot the three, attack the rim, and to have a pull-up jumper, to have all three of those aspects, that's not easy to find. And with Drea, you get that. She's equally good at all three aspects. She can attack to the basket. She can pull up jumper. She shoots the three. She makes free throws. She's a really well-rounded guard.
Last year, her not being able to play in games, but you got to see her in practice every day. Were there times where you thought, wow, it's just going to be fun to watch her join this team in games next year, because you had to have loved what you were seeing in practice?
Well, no question. And, she made for a great scout player. I joked last year, as we played, Florida International 3 times last year, who had Jerica Coley lead the nation's leading scorer.
Yes.
And, we didn't have a problem simulating her because we had Andrea Gamble and very similar players. And, truly we defended Drea like we would Coley in practices last year.
As you continue to look a little bit more forward, you've got a little bit more non-conference action, then you get into the conference action. You guys go down to Cancun and you play in a tough tournament against ranked teams and some of the better teams in the nation. Obviously, not just as the coach, but as the scheduling coach, you've got to know, hey, this could be a tough test for us, but we'll be better on the other side.
Well, and I think we were, and kind of as you look at that tournament, we played North Carolina, who's ranked 10th in the nation, and we got outmatched. I mean, honestly, and we got a little bit, heads dropped and got a little bit overwhelmed by the athleticism. I've said over the last few weeks, I've played a lot of top 10 teams during my career, but that may be the most athletic team I've ever faced, and really, really good team. And I was a little disappointed in the Illinois game. I thought we could have had a shot at that one, and it's a 3-4 point ball game with about 8 minutes to go, and then we let it get out of hand, and I was disappointed in that, but couldn't be happier with the way we responded against an Arizona State team that is in one poll now in the top 25. They're 9-1, and we battled them and had every chance to win that game down the stretch. So because of that, we actually left that tournament feeling really good about ourselves and feeling that tournament was very beneficial to us.
I know there are people who say there are good losses or that kind of thing. Are you a guy who believes in that kind of stuff? Do you believe that even if you lose a game, sometimes you can gain enough that no loss is ever worth it, but that you leave that loss and think, we're a better team because of that game?
As long as it's non-conference. As long as it's non-conference. Yeah, because that's, in the big picture, that's what this is all about. And I think the Arizona State is an example of that. Is, we walked out of there feeling pretty good about who we are as a team and seeing what we're capable of. And we're still 0-0 in conference, so
That's
it hadn't
right.
hurt us there.
And sort of the other point to that, you get down maybe in a conference game, you're on the road, a Little Rock, a Western Kentucky, something like that. There's really nothing your team hasn't seen by now. To me, that's the key to those tough non-conference games, because you can look them in the eye and say, you've been through something harder than this already.
There's no question. And I think that's when you look at our losses right now, whether it be a Tennessee Martin, North Carolina, Illinois, Arizona State, Wichita State, I think each of those teams could compete to win the Sun Belt. Several of them would win the Sun Belt. So I think we've seen what the best can bring. And, again, we've competed for the most part pretty well against those teams.
When we come back, you'll see those highlights. We're talking about those games. We've got highlights coming up here on the Brian Boyer Show. Stick around. The A-State Red Wolves are GoDaddy Bowl bound for the 3rd straight year. Don't miss out on the fun, the fellowship, or the football as Arkansas State takes on Ball State January 5th, 2014 at Mobile, Alabama's Ladd-Peebles Stadium. For the best seats and to most benefit the Red Wolves, get your tickets directly from the A-State box office. Call 888-ASU-FANS or visit tickets.astate.edu. It's time to mobilize our state for the GoDaddy Bowl. Welcome back to the Brian Boyer Show. Now, we were talking about highlights, and we've got some highlights for you. We're going to start, Coach, with the Arizona State game, and you talked about getting better at the tournament, and this was really proof. The team got better despite tough competition as the tournament went on.
Well, we got better. We competed, and I think more than anything, we had a couple opportunities. One of my disappointments against Illinois was that I thought we really dropped our heads a couple of times, and against Arizona State we had two opportunities. They jumped out 6-0 on us, and then in the second half they went on an 8-0 run, took an 8-point lead, and both of those chances we had times to drop our head, and our team didn't. They fought through both of those, and I was really proud of the way that we handled that adversity throughout the course of that game.
The interesting thing, or one of the interesting things to me about a lot of these tournaments where teams may go and they may play outside the country in Hawaii, Cancun, whatever, it's got to be a strange environment for your kids because they're not eating what they normally eat. They're not doing what they normally do. Gym may be a little bit quiet because, obviously your crowd doesn't really have a chance to travel that far. Even that environment, I would imagine, helps, just dealing with strange stuff.
Well, it does, and certainly playing 3 games in 3 days, and when you look ahead down the road to the Sun Belt tournament, it's that type of deal where you get to play and then quickly refocus and film, and the trip down there would consist of playing a game and then dinner, and then that night back watching film. The next morning up at shoot around, play a game, dinner, film. I mean, it was a pretty consistent, the 3 days throughout it. So, but yeah, it's going to really prepare us as we, move throughout the season.
We've talked a lot about Andrea Gamble just as the show's gotten started, and as people can see in the highlights, you see a lot of her and her ability not just to create shots for herself, but she can get shots for others because she makes other people have to come and guard her all the time.
Well, no question. And she, again, like I said, not only getting her own shot, but, she's starting to draw so much attention and so much help, which is going to help the rest of our perimeter back. You'll see late in this game, she actually, Jane Morrell knocks down 2 threes because the attention that Gamble drew from off screens, and they ran at Gamble, and Jane's open and knocks down 3s. So she is able. And now here's an example right there. Drea with the steal and makes a good little dish back to Hannah in the transition to get the layup there.
Jane Morrell shooting threes. People see one of the top post players in A-State women's basketball history, and man, she can step out and hit it from long range as well as anybody right now. I'm really enjoying watching that.
Well, she can, and in this game in particular, especially late, she hit 2 in a few minutes there. One, and both occasions we were down 4, and she cuts it to 1. So she's shooting the ball really well. Great to be able to use her. In fact, here's Jane on the block, a good strong move down low against Pac-12 post player. She's a really good strong move by Jane, and but she is able to step out and shoot it really good on the pick and roll or pick and pop is what I was getting ready to say before that.
Jane is such a humble person too. If you just talked to her, you wouldn't even know she played basketball, and she could literally leave here as one of the top 5 scorers in history of A-State women's basketball.
Well, I think, honestly, Jane has, in my opinion, she only has one real flaw, and that's sometimes she's still too hard on herself. As coaches, we don't have to get on her because she's going to take care of it herself. I think sometimes she's too hard on herself, and she gets down on herself a lot of times when she doesn't necessarily need to. But as she said, very humble, very wants to be perfect, wants to do things really well.
I hope that people will take advantage of watching her play for the rest of her career here. I hope they take advantage of every home game just because players like that don't just come around, all the time.
No, and like I said, it's not only, the scoring, the rebounding, her, ability to pass the ball, her work ethic, all those things, she just does some great things. We were talking about this. This is an out of bounds play late where Jane knocks down a 3. We're actually down 4. That cuts it to 1. They went down, hit a couple free throws, and again, this is towards the end of the game.
So a tough loss to a 9-1 Arizona State team, a Pac-12 team, but then you gotta pack up, you gotta come home, then you gotta take the team on the road to play Wichita State, and that's another program that's having great success this year.
Yeah, they are. NCAA tournament team last year, and they're off, I think, a 7-2 start right now. So, in a lot of ways, I told the team I thought this would be as challenging as any of the Cancun ones from a simple fact of a good team, and now you're on their home court. and they draw really good, really well there, the fan support. And as it turns out, it was a good challenge. We went into a little underhanded as Hannah Cadan did not play with a shoulder injury, so we went into that game without her. And we competed well, but in the end, Wichita State was just too much.
Let's check out those highlights. So on the road, like you said, in a tough place to play, and I know Wichita State came out and they were firing on all cylinders early.
Well, we're early on. Of course, you see it's Drea, Drea with the layup there, and then gets actually a three-point play. And here's a good, it's Carlisha Wyatt comes into the game and gets a good strong move. Jess Flannery there with the layup. We actually Jess started for us with Hannah being out. That's her first career start, and I thought Jess did a nice job for us. She had played 27 minutes. There's a lot of minutes for her. I had 8 points, and I was real pleased with the effort that she gave us in Hannah's absence.
That's a tall order for somebody, a young player, to go on the road and start a game. And you mentioned that's a lot more minutes than she normally played. Players get conditioned to play a certain amount of minutes, and to go full speed for that amount of time, that takes some getting used to when you double, triple, quadruple your minutes in a game.
Well, there's no question there. You see it on cue there, hitting another three there in the second half. And but no, I thought she handled it well. I thought, obviously you're concerned and the decision making of whether you're going to go with her, Khadijah, Jamie Ruffins, in the absence of Hannah, and decided to just go with Jess because of the way she'd been practicing. And I'm not disappointed in that decision. I thought she did a really good job for us, on actually on both ends of the court.
Great ball movement. I'll say this about your teams. They're never selfish, and that shows in how they'll give up the rock to each other.
Well, they are at, sometimes, we need them, actually, a few of them to be a little bit more aggressive. But, the ball movement, Brittany Gill there with a good move here, a little jump shot in the lane, and she continues to play well. But, again, I think it's a strength of this team is that we have a lot of scoring. It's not a one or two players. We certainly know Drea has the ability to take over at times. But we certainly don't have to depend on her in scoring. Here's a great attack by her. But Brittany Gill has shown the ability to score. And certainly when Hannah's playing, she shows the ability. We got high-low game here, getting it inside to Jane Morrell there for a layup. We know her abilities to score. So, again, I just think there's a lot of good things coming. Brittany Fowler gets in the action here with the assist to Jasmine Hunt. And real pleased with what Jasmine's been doing for us this year, too. Coming off the bench at, giving us some good minutes.
You mentioned a Brittany Fowler, and we've talked about Jess Flannery and even Andrea Gamble, a younger player. You always have a good mix of both veterans and freshmen. The youngest players on the team. Everybody gets a shot with you. You've always been that way.
Well, we've tried to, for the most part, we've done it for the most part with high school as opposed to junior college, and trying to develop and get people involved. And I like our mix this year. I mean, you go across our roster, the seniors contributing. We've got juniors. You've got certainly sophomores in Gamble and Brittany Gill, and then the freshman class too. Especially Jamie Ruffins is doing a really good job for us. So we're getting a lot of good minutes out of each of those classes, as you said.
We've talked about Jane Morrell. When we come back, we'll have a really nice player profile on her and more here on the Brian Boyer Show.
The Big Easy is the place to be as Sunbelt teams look to punch their ticket to the big dance. 16 teams will go head-to-head in New Orleans. Fighting for a chance of March Madness glory. The Sunbelt Men's and Women's Basketball Championship, March 12th through the 16th at Lakefront Arena. Contact your school's ticket office today.
Hey, good luck on the big date.
Centennial Bank, conveniently open from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. Monday through Saturday and 1 to 4 p.m. Sunday at the mall at Turtle Creek, Arkansas's community bank.
Coach, I know we've talked a lot about Jane, and if you talk about your program, you're just going to talk about her. Ironic, I think, and very fitting that this season's coaching show, the first profile, is on that young lady?
Well, she's done an awful lot for this program, and you talk about those ideal coaches, players. That's Jane. I mean, she's been a dependable person, dependable student, certainly a dependable basketball player now for 4 years, going on her 4th year here, and is very dedicated on the court, certainly very dedicated in the classroom, a great student, going to be an athletic trainer. So couldn't ask anything more of what Jane has done for this program.
When you recruit players and you get to know them and you get to know their families, you say, I want you to come here and be a part of our program, and here's where I see you fitting in. Do they sometimes even go better maybe than what you thought?
Well, I think yes, and I think they do. You always hope for the best, but I've said several times that my coaching career here, there's a handful of players that the very first time I saw them as a recruit, there was something inside of me. It was like, this kid's special. Jane is one of those 4 or 5 players, and you knew from the very minute you saw her that this was a made for Sunbelt player. It was a made for Arkansas State individual, and she certainly has done just as I had hoped and expected.
As you look forward, obviously you've got depth at the post position, but like you said, Jane's a person who's hard on herself. She very much polices herself. All these younger posts, the Jalen's and the Jasmine's and all these other young, Andrea, they got to look to her and think, I need to work like she does. I need to study like she does. I need to be a student. She's a great example for all those young posts.
Well, that's what you want out of your senior class for sure. And she being a senior, she gives that example, as you said. And, you would never question her work ethic. You would never question her caring, her passion, for this program, for this university, everything about it. She is, as you said, she's a great role model, great leader for these younger players.
Let's get to know Jane Morrell a little better.
Since her freshman year in Jonesboro, Jane Morrell has been a centerpiece in the Arkansas State women's basketball program. Last year, she finished the season being named second team All-Sunbelt, as well as ranking 16th on Arkansas State's all-time scoring list. She enters this season as the leading point scorer among current Sunbelt players. We spoke to the Scott City, Missouri native about the start of the season so far, her thoughts on stepping into a leadership role as a senior, what it's like being one of the top players in the Sunbelt Conference, and of course, a little bit of inside information on Coach Boyer.
We have great chemistry already. I can see it in our players. We have a lot of scorers. I mean, at any time there could be 4 scorers at the court at once. So I think that's going to be a great strength for us.
Individual honors are great, but Jane says the team comes first.
It's senior year, obviously, so it's time to step up and be the team leader vocally and as leading on the court with my actions. But that's what I'm working on the most right now, is just being that leader for this team. This year has been interesting. It's been a change for me because every year I've been here, it's kind of been that pressure. I honestly say I like this a lot better. It opens things up for me, but as well, it's just there's always somebody scoring, and it's nice. It's nice to step back and kind of clap, and be like, "Hey, good job, guys. That was good." So I enjoy it. Players are tightening up on the block, and I'm able to come out and get a couple shots around the key for us, and I'm also working on rebounding a little bit more.
The tournament in Cancun against nationally ranked opponents can only help to prepare the team for conference play.
Well, it just gives us, I think, a little bit of motivation to see what we are capable of, and coming back and taking that into conference play, and just knowing that our talent is there and we have the capability of doing something great in conference. I just think we got a great team thing going on right now, and it's just really fun to be with these girls.
Having spent the past 3 years on the team, Jane has some comments about Coach Boyer.
The ability to just come out of nowhere and just be so enthusiastic in a game and be so emotional, and he just really puts that into his players, really well. It's a lot of fun to watch him over there screaming his head off, just getting into the game. So I like that about him. Every coach has got his screaming ability, but he puts that into play in practice, obviously. But I don't think that's a bad thing about him. I think that's just one of those things players are concerned about. But it's fun.
When not on the basketball court, Jane enjoys getting back to nature.
Well, my favorite thing this time of year, fall, is my favorite. I love to go camping. We have a cabin out in the middle of the woods. It's just a great time to spend, get close to family. I also like to go hunting and fishing when I get the chance. Basically anything outdoors, I love.
For the Coach Boyer Show, I'm Alex Nelson.
Great young lady, great character. You're going to need her, though. You're going to need all hands on deck for these next few games. Now, this is the only December episode of the Brian Boyer Show. The next time people see us, you will have played a bunch more tough games and even started the conference schedule.
Well, we've got 3 more non-conference games left here. Starting this Wednesday, hosting Tennessee Tech before going on the road to UCA. Then we'll get the players will get about 4 days off around Christmas. We'll come back and get ready for another our final test in non-conference, and it'll be a dandy from a test standpoint as at Texas A&M, top 20 team, and not just but a couple years removed from a national championship.
The Tennessee Tech game, the next game up on the schedule, has become a very interesting one. And not particularly that game, but just the elementary school game concept that you guys are doing now for a December game where young people get to come and experience A-State basketball. And I think I told you this when the concept was first hatched. I said, as a kid growing up in Harrisburg, once a year we would have a matinee high school game. And I thought that was the greatest thing in the world, to go and watch the Hornets and miss a little school. This is Division I college basketball. What a thrill for these kids, and it shows. They're so excited.
Well, it's we pulled it off last year. We had a little over 1,000 students there, and we're expecting around that same number this year. And it's a great opportunity. It's the local elementary schools. I know it's a little bit odd that we're starting at noon. It's kind of an odd time to be starting a game, but as you said, it's a great opportunity for all the elementary school kids in this area to get to do something they may have never experienced before.
Central Arkansas up next on the schedule, and that's probably one of those you don't have to say much. When it's 2 in-state teams that play each other, maybe you don't have to give as good a motivational speech for a game like that.
Well, I hope not. Our players need to be ready because it's, as you said, it's an in-state game, and it's an in-state game against a team that's much improved from last year. UCA, they already have a win at Ole Miss this year. So it's a good opponent. It's going to be another one of those real challenges, especially because of the fact that we'll be on the road at their place.
And then again, quickly before we let people go, the next time they see us will be in January. But Coach, a tough road swing down there. You mentioned A&M, but you'll also get started on the conference swing.
Yeah, I've said all along ever since we scheduled, I really hope I like my team here in a couple weeks, because I think it's going to be 8 days on the road together, so a lot of bus time. But we go up to Texas A&M and then actually just make a swing trip from there straight up to Texas Arlington, get conference play started there to Texas State, get our first 2 conference games out of the way on the road on that same trip.
All right, 9 games of the season in the books and the first Brian Boyer Show in the books. We'll see you again next time in December. Until then, from the coach, from me, happy holidays to you and your family. We'll see you again soon.